As I see it, there are three key competencies that an educator needs in order to be successful. The first is education. The second, confidence and humility. Yes, we're going to lump them in together, and I'll explain that in a minute. And the third is communication skills. So let's start with education. If one is going to educate, one needs to be educated. For example, I teach philosophy and religious studies for the most part. Well, I have formal education in philosophy and in religious studies, in theology. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be qualified or even capable of teaching those disciplines. That's why I don't teach math or sociology or history. I don't have the education necessary to do so. It is key for an educator to be educated. Understanding the discipline and understanding the content is just one of the reasons an educator needs to be educated. Another is when we are educated, when we go through an education system from K-12 into at least undergraduate school, we experience education as a student. So that empowers us as educators to see things through the eyes of the student, to understand where they're coming from, to understand what they need, and to understand how they perceive what we do. It is essential that anyone who is educating formally or semi-formally, so in a high school or a college or a university, or in a corporate training scenario in a religious formation environment, it is essential for that person to have experienced education. Otherwise, they can fall into a trap of repeating what their elementary and high school teachers did and not understanding why. Assigning homework because that's what happened in high school. And I put that in quotes because we don't really use homework in the college system. We certainly assign coursework, but assignments and assessments are a little different than the traditional homework that we got assigned in high school. It is important for us to have experienced a variety of education styles so we can fully educate to the best of our ability, incorporating the best of all of those styles. And again, understanding where the student's coming from and understanding why we're doing what we're doing. I had a student ask me once, do you need to have an ego to be a college professor? And I said, no. What you need to have to be an effective educator, whether it's K-12 or college or semi-formal education, is a healthy balance of confidence and humility. Confidence is essential. And some of that comes from our content knowledge, comes from our education that leads us to a point of confidence. We must exude confidence in order to garner the trust of our students. If we're not confident in ourselves as educators, our students are not going to be confident in us. They're not going to trust us. That confidence, however, should not get out of hand. It should not take a person to a level at which they feel superior to the students with whom they are on this educational journey. That's where humility comes in. Charles Dickens said in A Christmas Carol, all human persons are, quote, fellow passengers to the grave. It's a bit morbid, but I love the sentiment. We're all in this together. And by this, I mean life. So when I'm in the front of a classroom and I am sharing my content knowledge and my experience and my education with people who are eager to learn from me, I am joined with them in a process, an educational process. I'm not superior to them. It's also really important for an educator to be totally okay with using the phrase, I don't know. Humility. We are going to get questions. We do get questions that we don't know the answers to, and that's okay. I'll use myself again as an example. I teach philosophy. I have not studied every single philosopher to have ever shared any thought process with anyone anywhere. That is impossible. My colleagues who teach literature, they haven't read every book, poem, and short story ever published. It's okay to say, I don't know. Now, there are strategies we can use when we don't know the answer to a question. One of them, a corporate trainer used in a former job of mine, is called the parking lot. She kept a sticky note pad, and when she got a question that she didn't know the answer to, she would write the question down on the sticky note and she put it up on a whiteboard. And then at the end of the day, she took all the sticky notes down and took them with her. The next time we met, she had the sticky notes again, and she had the answers to all the questions. So essentially, she was saying, you know what, I don't know the answer right now, but I'm going to research it and I'm going to get back to you. Another thing we can do when we don't know the answer to a question is to say, you know what, I don't know, but grab your phones, those of you who have a laptop with you, Google it. Let's look it up and let's find out. Let's research together. Now we have just embraced a teaching moment. That teaching moment is when you Google something and you try to find the answer to something, how do you know if you're using a good source or a bad source, a credible source or a non-credible source, a scholarly journal or somebody's blog? So now a teaching moment has happened through an exercise of humility. Finally, we come to communication skills. This is obvious for an educator. If one is going to educate, one needs to be able to communicate. In today's world of education, it's verbal communication, the spoken word, it's written communication, the written word, because we are emailing our students often. We are creating lecture notes, lecture videos I like to do, obviously. Here I am in front of a camera right now. We have to be effective and efficient communicators if we're going to be successful educators.